what we're going to watch is the testimonies at the C-Tran Board of Directors, and it's absolutely breathtaking, actually. It's absolutely breathtaking to watch so many people take an interest in their transit system. You just don't see that in Portland. People in Portland they don't get excited about anything in Portland, really. There's like no activist community here. I'm not sure why that is. I mean, the only activist community is Opal, and those are primarily younger people. But in the C-Tran situation, you're going to see all middle-aged people who took time out of their day to come over there and express their displeasure at the C-Tran board for renewing the CRC. I can't blame them. I mean, the thing that won't die. And as far as the people in Washington are concerned, they're seeing TriMet bully its way to Washington. And how can you say that's not what's happening? I mean, that is what's happening. And for some reason, the people that are on these boards over there in Washington are supporting this. I don't understand why they're pushing us down their throats now. I mean, the future is going to come, okay? I personally believe light rail to Vancouver is actually the only other place that makes sense. I don't think the Green Line makes any sense. I don't think the Milwaukee Line makes any sense. Vancouver does make sense, but people up there are not ready for it. So why are they shoving this down their throat now? It's the light rail mafia. Don't ever think there's no light rail mafia, because there is. And they've shown it over and over again. They buck the voters and do this against their will. It really is a picture of rogue government. And we all know that the truth about light rail has got nothing to do with transit. These people want the federal dollars. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. It's not about the transit. You think they give a shit about anybody that rides transit? Absolutely not. They don't care about people that ride transit. They want that money, and it's huge money. And just look at TriMet. What gives TriMet that awesome power is the awesome amount of money that's involved with the light rail projects. And that money gets spread out to all the various people, the cronies, the contractors, whatever. All the people involved with it end up getting rich. And that's what light rail is really about. And anybody that understands any of this knows that's true. People don't want it up there yet. So I'm not sure why Oregon and Portland is demanding this push down their throats. I certainly understand the opposition. And even though citizens get no say in their government, I find it breathtaking that people take the time to express their feeling. Portland, we have no activism here. Nobody thinks about TriMet at all. And you know why that is? Because people don't use it. Despite all the PR and all the propaganda, very few people actually use TriMet. And most of the ones that do don't have the time to be bothered talking to the board and don't think about it at all. Anyway, let's watch these great testimonies from Vancouver.
My name is David Hedrick. I debated on a while about coming to say this, but I think it's something the community at this point needs to hear. I was previously, many people may not know, but I was a senior project accountant for the Northwest region of a large bridge company here in the Portland area. It's actually a national bridge company, but I worked here locally. The CRC was something that we all wanted a piece of. Everybody was very excited about it because of the large amount of money that was involved. We all knew it had problems. This notion that the height of the bridge and all that came out afterwards, we were joking about this long before. There was people in the office literally laughing about the height of that bridge and how it wasn't going to work, long before people were working on building it. And we understood the taxpayer was getting ripped off when they were paying for a bridge design that was never going to happen. There's some other potential structural issues, according to the engineers I worked with, but some of those haven't even come out yet. We knew the problems. We had a new hire that came into our company, and he was paid more than anyone else in the office. And I found out who it was. I wasn't even sure. I wasn't on the group that hired him. We found out that he was the guy who basically goes around and he greases the wheels of politicians. That was his job, and that's why he's paid so much. I got called into his office as their accountant, and he knew I was involved politically. And he asked me, he had a problem. There was a mayor that had run in the city of Vancouver who had run on a pledge of no tolls. And he had promised, speech after speech, on videos on YouTube, that he would not support tolls. So how are you going to get this no tolls mayor on our side? Well, he told me to go have he asked me if I would have a discussion with him and with the mayor, and let him know that it would be in his best interest to change his mind. Now, I worked for this company. I was 29 years old, managing billions of dollars in assets, had a great career, knowing that this wasn't really a request. I was being told what to do. So I did the only thing I could do, and I said no. Now, you know, when I look at this, I know it's possible that the mayor completely changed his position, and he completely changed his mind, and he did a 180 and went the opposite direction. And if you believe that, though, I've got a no-tolls mayor I'd like to sell you.
Hey, hold it. Hold it.
Thank you for this opportunity for comment. I want to do some debunking here. Light rail is not about transportation. It's about giving taxpayer money to developers. That's why Identity Clark County people are here all the time. They're looking to get their mitts on tax money because of the development that allegedly follows from light rail. The problem is light rail doesn't cause development. Giving away the tax money is what causes development. And right here I have the evidence from a 1996 Portland City Council meeting that was held 10 years after the first light rail line was built, and no development occurred along the line. So you're going to hear from a Portland Bureau of Planning employee, the person who's now I believe he's the chief planner at Metro, and the mayor of Portland. And when they talk about increment, that means tax abatements.
By evidence in the report, we point out that during the 10-year operation of MAX, along the stations we're targeting as part of this program, we have not seen any of the kind of development of a mid-rise, higher density, mixed use, mixed income type that we would like to have seen.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm Andy Catugno, Transportation Director for Metro. I'd like to submit a letter endorsing your proposal on behalf of Mike Burton. This is an important step to help us implement the 2040 plan. We have great expectations for your success in developing these kinds of places at higher density. You're participating, you know what we're dealing with in terms of trying to maintain a compact region. The rest of the region, frankly, is watching Portland closely to ensure that Portland is taking the action necessary to help implement the plan. We're pleased to see that you're stepping up to this kind of action in order to accomplish this. These are the most important places to accomplish these higher densities. They have the best transit service. They have the infrastructure that does not need to be built out onto the farmlands. So they really are the best places to accomplish this kind of development. We're pleased to see you moving in this direction.
Now the mayor of Portland.
And here we are in the hottest real estate market in the country, and yet Mr. Steffi can't get his project done without this increment. Mr. Rimbold can't get his project done without this one more layer in the 12-layer cake these folks have to build in order to finance one of these projects. Well, I think we ought to take some instruction from that and figure that we might want to hear President Roosevelt's instruction to, above all, do something, because we have an investment here that hasn't been well capitalized on by the region if we have that much vacant land along our light rail system.
Thank you.
Suggestion for all of you. I think we ought to sell TriMet. I think we ought to put it on the market and privatize C-Tran. Where am I? C-Tran, and put it on the market, because obviously this board isn't capable of running it. You give the impression that all of these things go on, and I truly question the leadership that we are getting from the City Council on what goes on here. It appears that there's a lot of collusion, there's a lot of behind-the-door meetings, there's a lot of secrecy that goes on with all of this. The people are pretty fed up with it. The light of day is not known on this board. And I for one, am tired of it. I've been promised a vote. I get no vote. And then we have the attorney and, well, you're the director of operations, but the people from C-Tran meeting and making agreements behind our backs that obligates us, that takes our property if TriMet decides they want it. What is this? What are you people thinking? I am amazed, absolutely amazed. I have never seen a group, a body that is supposed to be in charge of public transportation that has to handle things in this manner. It's despicable. And all the names you're being called, those of you, and Mr. Levitt, I'd appreciate it if you'd look at me when I'm talking to you.
Hey, let's speak.
You need to pay attention to the people of Vancouver and Clark County. We don't want this, we don't need it, and especially in the manner in which it's being handled.
Stephanie, I'm just taking
Thank
notes
you.
of what you're saying. Thank you. So that I have it for my records.
Good.
Yeah, you bet.
Voted, and you ignored us.
This is what happens.
Okay. That's how, please, let's be
We,
able
the
to listen.
people, at least part of us had a vote and you ignored us. Does the C in C-Tran then stand for contempt? You wanted us to be respectful to you, but you have not been respectful to us. So does the C in C-Tran stand for criminal? TriMet is going bankrupt. How dare you not only merge with them, but cede all authority to them? How dare you give Oregon and TriMet the power of eminent domain over our private property? How dare you give Oregon and TriMet total control of tolling prices? Does the C in C-Tran stand for cronyism? CRC will not relieve congestion. Why spend hundreds of millions of dollars for no gain? Okay, maybe 2 or 3% reduction in congestion. Is it really worth it? Does the C in C-Tran stand for corruption? How dare you?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Hear my name back there. It is loud. So we're partnered up now with TriMet, and I just want to say a couple observations over the couple of years. I know Jeff Hams regularly spoke about the reciprocity and how TriMet, I think at times he's implied they were poised to go legal and take it to court or do something of that nature. And I remember one of the quarterly budgets, there was an expense of a little over $200,000 for the quarter, and then recently you were reviewing a budget, and I think it was a flat $50,000 per month. So it sounds like maybe they, Jeff said they wanted much more, and it sounds like maybe they were behaving themselves in the courtship. But you know, I would look for that to probably turn on us, and they want much more and demand more. Mayor Levitt at a recent meeting brought up that TriMet wants C-Tran to actually build the segment of light rail from the Expo Center to the center of the bridge, and then of course beyond into Washington. So I don't know how that matter's coming along as far as resolving itself. I share Chair Ganley's observations of this eminent domain, how they said we will, or C-Tran will, and it isn't really giving away our rights. It sounds like they point and you act. So it's almost the worst, because you're the bad guys. They got nothing to lose. They just say get rid of this building and this building, and you guys are do the dirty work. So hopefully there's an escape hatch or annulment in this situation. Mr. Wolfendale is inserted, and because it seems like they're going to be really a bully of a partner, and as their finances continue to spiral downward, I think we're going to feel it. They're going to be asking a lot more of us. So I wish you'd rethink it if you can.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Thanks, Steve. And next is
I'm Morgan. I'm the Property Rights Director for the Freedom Foundation, and mainly I'm here just to talk about TriMet, which is Portland's government entity representing their light rail, and that it's basically a Ponzi scheme. And you don't really need to believe me. All you have to do is look at their own financial reports. There's no sustainable future for this fiasco. There's no financial future. It's over. It's just a question of when. But like all Ponzi schemes, in order to keep the scheme alive, you have to grow the number of new suckers who can give you their money. And the Ponzi scheme can survive then a little bit longer, and sometimes for quite a few more years. Just look at Bernie Madoff. But the recent C-Tran vote to avoid a public vote on the TriMet contract, and then the rapid signing of that TriMet contract, ensures that now the Ponzi scheme will continue, and the taxpayers of Clark County are the next batch of suckers. Now, I don't blame the majority of the C-Tran board from wanting to keep this contract hidden and in the shadows as much as possible. It is embarrassing. And nobody who reads this agreement could possibly conclude that there was any thought to how this would harm the citizens of Clark County for many years into the future, or if there was any concern that it was just dismissed as the necessary harm. The CRC has already attained quite an impressive status. It's the most ridiculed transportation project in Washington State, and that's actually a significant achievement considering that our Department of Transportation here has a colorful history of sinking bridges and collapsing bridges. But the CRC mess with the missing mystery funds, the incompetent bridge designs, total failure to fix any real transportation needs, and real indications of corruption is moving it to the front of the pack in a very crowded field of incompetent transportation projects around the state. And now everyone in Clark County is going to have to bear these costs. To paraphrase Shakespeare, I think that we should start with the attorneys. I'll be submitting an information request to C-Tran listing all billing information for all legal counsel received over the last few years for C-Tran. We should publicize and expose just what kind of legal counsel that's given to elected officials that approve such a contract that so clearly is not in the best interest of anyone in Clark County. The poison pill clause is an outsourced and eminent domain, and these things should not be done by our elected officials. Thank you.
Yes, Margaret. Mr. Roberts?
I'm the Citizen Action Network Director with the Freedom Foundation out of Olympia, Washington. I'd like to thank you for your time tonight and allowing me a few minutes to speak with you. When I read the article in the Columbian last week about how a contract was rushed through, I felt like we needed to start to look into this. And if there's one thing that our members, the thousands of members across Washington State, really care about, it's government waste, fraud, and corruption. So with that, I've authorized my guys to go ahead and start doing public records requests to find out what is really going on here. And we're going to engage our thousands of members across Washington to help us dig through that information. If you have questions about the public records requests in any way that we're doing, I would probably be the right contact for you. My name is Scott Roberts. I'm the Citizen Action Network Director at the Freedom Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Higdon.
Opportunity to present my views. My name is Thomas Higdon. The decision of 26 September last by 5 members of this board to cede dominion over the citizens of Clark County and the property of Clark County to the agency of another state can only have been birthed by an attitude which could be an unlovely combination of ignorance, 10%, and arrogance, 90%. This is a transparent usurpation of the authority of the state of Washington and cannot stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Higdon will be thank you.
And gutted a resolution presented by Tim Levitt saying that he was tired of making decisions from inside a vacuum, and this board agreed based on that gutting to have the director of C-Tran go out and find out what a contract might look like. Now, Commissioner Stewart was very clear. He said it frankly, boldly. He wanted to make sure that we understood this was not to be a contract, just information. At the next meeting, voila, we witnessed as the absolute violation of citizen, state, and federal constitutional rights took place. We watched a board voted for a contract without having a contract even presented to them. This is a complete violation of your oath and good faith to serve. We watched a display presented by Jeff Ham, who claimed 10 days before that there was no contract. He lied. He obviously lied. People everywhere are asking me right now to help them find a way to disband this board. We can legally do it. It's not my goal. We've dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into this agency, and I want people to get the transportation they desperately need. However, I will tell you this. Jeff Ham should be fired. As an executive board, you should not have anyone working for you who lies to you. And never should any single solitary one of this executive board have ever voted for a contract they did not see. You have one of two choices in front of you. Find a way to rescind your problem, and it is your problem. We're going to put it right back on you. Or spend the rest of the citizens' money defending yourself in court, because we won't let you get away with it.
I'm from Battleground, Washington, and I spoke before this board back in May, you may recall. I'm the one, probably the only one in this room that has lived the light rail lie from Portland, Oregon. And I want to thank the 4 of you who chose not to sign up with this apparently one-sided agreement in TriMet's favor. And for the other 5 of you, shame on you. I told you about how light rail brings with it crime. It brings with it diminishing property values. It brings with it gangs, and it destroys schools. And so I guess I would ask of you, what's not to like? I would like to see you do whatever it is you need to do, even if it's take out your own checkbook and write a check that's going to total up to $5 million and get Clark County out of this. Because Clark County will pay in ways that you cannot imagine at this time. We left Multnomah County in large part because of what had become of it. And I would hate to have to leave Clark County for the same reasons.
Thank you, Lee.
Members of the board, thank you for allowing the public to speak freely this evening. I appreciate it. I've got a graph here that I want to show you. And the colors might be hard for you to see, but I just want to point out that this project that you're entering into, this light rail project, it's not really a bridge project, it's a light rail project. It's a microcosm of what is wrong with Washington State's transportation program. And if you look back in 1991, we spent 67% of our transportation dollars in Puget Sound on road projects, compared to just 33%. Now look at today. We're spending only 36% on road projects, and the rest is mass transit. And it gets worse. When I was here a couple weeks ago, I mentioned to you that ridership on mass transit in Puget Sound has actually gone down in the last 30 years. I'm not making this up. 6% of people in Puget Sound 30 years ago used mass transit, and today it's less than 4%. You are buying into a program where a disproportionate amount of money is being spent to move a few people, and it doesn't make sense. That's why I avoid Seattle, because it's mired in traffic congestion. So just in closing, I want to thank the 4 courageous members here who voted to reject this proposal. And the rest of you, I'm going to echo what others said, shame on you.
Hey, hold it. Hold it. Please, let's show respect, and we want to be able to hear everybody speak. Okay, please wrap up.
Sure. The reality is we know that likely didn't happen. We know that with the influences that special interests have, we know, and I've got to see firsthand exactly what they do and how it works. So what I'd like to say is I would like to ask the mayor, did you at least get a good price?
I'm sketch with K.
Okay. Followed by Larry Shaw.
Okay, I didn't come prepared to testify tonight. I'm from Washington County, Oregon, and I can echo some of the things that were said by the previous lady that's from the victim of the Portland TriMet. I can tell you that when I watched or heard the plans actually being unfolded for the Washington County Light Rail Max line being unfolded, before they even started on the project, I was receiving letters and notifications from local officials saying your property value is going to go down, safety is going to go down. I happened to work at one of the big companies out there at the time, and I had my local police officer friend come and do presentations at my big company that I worked at, and he came and he did safety presentations to the women, and he, technically could not do it for women only, so the men were flocking in, standing room only. It was such a high demand for this thing that we had him come back 2 more times. Now, this is a person who was warning us about the dangers of light rail before light rail was even under construction. This was bad, really, really bad, and as soon as it got under construction, we were warned every property value within 1 mile would go down, and we sure as heck got our letter that our property value did go down. Now, this big company that I worked at has light rail going right through its parking lot. So convenient. That's what it was all about, was to get these 10,000 employees to go right to work on the light rail without having to drive their cars. How convenient. Well, guess what? They have less than a 3% ridership out of those employees, and I'll call it Intel. Less than 3%. Intel even gave away free rider passes to Intel employees. Ridership still remained under 4%. Even though it goes right through the parking lot. People still drive their cars. It's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort, and if you would listen to the statistics by Cascade Policy Institute, you would find out that what you just voted on is an absolute joke. Period.
Thank you. Okay.
First thing I can say is, you've got to be kidding me. Who do you people think you are? I just cannot believe that you can take a contract, write it in secrecy, and then try and blindside half of the board with those things that went on. I've seen a lot of people this evening have got some bad feelings about David Madore. I can tell you, this is the best thing that's happened to you people since I've been here for 40-some-odd years. David Madore has got more integrity than most of you have. I speak to the 5 people that voted for it. He's got more integrity in his little foot than you've got in your whole body. And I just can't believe that how can you make a contract, a legal binding contract, with another state, another entity, based on erroneous and illegal information? I just don't see how you can do that. You say that there's a $5 million penalty if we violate the contract. I'm here to tell you that that $5 million is not going to come out of the Clark County taxpayers' pocket. If I have my way, it'll come out of each and every one of the 5 people that voted for this bill. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This is extremely difficult for me because I don't like to be out in public. I cannot believe that this is happening in my country. What's being presented to you is a Supreme Court case that took place in 1868. Okay, and the Supreme Court says it gives each citizen the right of free ingress into other states and egress from them. It's part of our pursuit of happiness. Now, the actions that you guys took, you don't really realize what you did. As an American, I have the right to free access the state of Oregon to visit a cemetery called Willamette National Cemetery. Okay, in that cemetery are brother-in-laws that gave their lives for this country. My wife, last week, had a granddaughter in the hospital up here at OHSU. And you want us to pay an entrance fee into the state of Oregon when they don't have to do that? That's what freedom is all about. Okay? A corporation is not a citizen of the United States. There's also a thing called the Oregon Admissions Act by Congress, 1859. And it says, forever free, as to all citizens of the United States without any tax, duty, impost, or toll thereof. We're citizens of 50 individual states. That's what that flag's got 50 stars on it for. You can't charge me a fee to enter Oregon, okay, when they have access to enter Nevada and California free. You can build a toll bridge here in the state of Washington, but not across into the Oregon. Okay? Now, the 14th Amendment says that no state shall pass any law depriving a citizen of their privileges. That's what you just did. Okay? The 5 that voted violated their oath of office. Okay? And citizens will take action. I have grandkids, nieces and nephews, and they have university student friends in Oregon. And they're going to get involved now. You've woken up the public. This is sick. This is America we fought for.
Thank you, Jeff.
I'm Dick Stone from the South Cliff area of Vancouver. I know you know me. I know all of you. I'm sorry we only have 3 minutes today. I got a whole lot of excoriating to do.
Oh, no.
First of all, Mr. Ganley, you got played, and you got played bad. Because I heard you that evening telling Mr. Ham what a wonderful job he and his staff did getting that thing together, and then they just shoved it right in your you-know-what. So I'm sorry for you because you didn't come off real well, and I know you didn't mean to. Now, there are 3 other people, you're one of the 4, that did everything they were supposed to do that night. Tom Mielke's not here, but I'm very proud of him. I'm proud of David Medore. I'm proud of you, Connie Cho, and I'm proud of you, Mr. Ganley. The rest of you are horrifyingly bad people. You are disgusting. And I'm going to start out with my impression of Mr. Wolfendale. You know, when I think about you, I've had a very difficult time remembering your name, and so I tried to put a picture on you in my mind so I could remember it. I kept thinking of a kind of a skanky-looking woman with a little purse and mesh nylons and spiky hair.
It has to be to the board, Dick, to the board, not to the staff.
Well, I would like to, okay, then I would like to let you know that I think that the oldest profession has been equated to the legal profession for a very good reason, and it's been amply demonstrated by Mr. Wolfendale, and I will forever think of him as Trixie. Mr. Ham, you know, people are sitting here saying, I can't believe you did this. I don't understand why you did this. What were you thinking? Well, I know what you were thinking. The 5 of you that went for this were thinking of yourselves. You didn't give a darn about anything else. You didn't care about the community. I think Mr. Ham, if I was to, I'm trying to think about why the guy that's the CEO of C-Tran would try to destroy it. The only thing I can come up with is there must be something better in his future that somebody offered him. That's all I'm thinking. Maybe it's not true, but that's my thoughts, and I wonder if anybody else is thinking that too. Mr. Wolfendale, I know you get paid for what you do. One more thing, Mr. Stewart, I think of you as Mac the Knife. You think you're cool, but you'll stab anybody in the back to get where you're going. And I think you stabbed us all in the back for a chance to be at Governor Inslee's right hand. That's what your goal is. And as far as you were concerned, Mr. Levitt, you were the puppet master. You are the puppet master, and the people that you bring here in your block vote, what you are the block head of, they are your little marionettes. And it's amazing to me when I come here and I see whenever you move your fingers, your puppets start to move their lips. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Pfeiffer Ross, and I'm a candidate for Vancouver School Board, Seat 3. And I want to correct my previous testimony because I was talking about how light rail is 17 miles an hour, and I found out it's actually 14.7 miles an hour, which means that a man can run faster than the light rail. But also, I want to say that if I am elected to the school board, I will never hire Portland teachers to come over here regularly and teach a class and then give the Portland School Board the decision on whether or not they can close some of our schools, fire some of our teachers. It's just not a good kind of contract that I would sign. And so by giving away that control to another state and another entity, especially one that's going bankrupt, I think is a bad plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dennis Henry, citizen of Vancouver. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been said. I do want to add to what's been said prior that a lot of people in my family are high-tech people, very high-end high-tech people, and they know that light rail is a thing of the past. It is not the future. And I cannot understand how the high-tech person representing all those high-tech people could say that it was for the future, because it's not. It's a waste. Shame on him for not being aware of what's coming down the road for high-tech that will make fixed rail trains obsolete in short order. Shame on you for not knowing it too. Shame on you for not advising them correctly. This is getting in bed with TriMet? Are you kidding me? That's responsible behavior? There's a lot I could say, but instead of just saying no, I'd just rather say nuts, because I think that's what you are for this contract. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Dennis.
So this is the first time that I've addressed a body like this. But the reason that I'm here is because of this secret sellout of the people of Vancouver. I'm here because I've negotiated contracts before. I know enough about what happened to know that there was a very short time between the foreshadowing that was done about a contract and finding information when the draft of the contract actually appeared. In the contracts that I've worked on in the past, those are negotiated, the terms must be decided on. It's a lengthy process, and the more negotiation that goes into a contract, of course, the lengthier it becomes. And yet, there's a very short window between the mention of a contract and then the appearance of the contract on the morning of the Thursday meeting. The last thing that I'd like to say is that I'm a GOP PCO 656. I'm going to start doorbelling my neighborhood in the coming days and weeks leading up to the election. And I just want to assure the candidates that are running for office in this election that I will be working against you because I feel like it's been a sellout. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I've lived here since 1969. I'm from Portland originally, graduated University of Portland, took that education to good use, and contributed to a business that I had run up in Alaska, ran out of Vancouver here, and out of Anchorage, Alaska, and still have some whole control of it, though I've sold better shares of my business. I've never spoken to any of you. Mr. Levette, I did speak on behalf of the fireworks thing about a year ago, and I met you then. I actually was very pleased to have met you. I find you a very fine gentleman, although today I totally disagree with you. But I did work on your campaign because as far as I was concerned, I wanted to get Royce Pollard out of there like you wouldn't believe. And I won't go into the reasons for that. But I was very pleased that Mr. Levette did win, who I supported. And only to find that this is now, this thing that's going on today, I'm not here to admonish you. You've already heard enough of it. I could go on and talk about statistics about the bridge and how the bridge isn't going to be safe, which it is for another 40 years. And I'm not here to, frankly, I don't think you folks are really listening. My question I want to ask all of you, including those of you who I do support, like Mr. Madore, why is it that you have these open meetings, and we all contribute, and yet there's no response to it? Mr. Levette, you didn't respond to the recordings that the man had for last week, talking about what you had said, in contrary to the way you feel today. And then you have your two commissioners, who are Mr. Hanson and Smith, who support you right down the line. And now today we have Gavel Down Harris here, and she's, you know how she's going to support. I hope we're not going to have her do a vote. So my point in conclusion is that I'm disappointed in that you folks have these meetings, but you're not listening to the people. If you are, you'd have questions yourself. You'd bring it up among yourself about, well, so-and-so brought this up, whatever. So I hope to say hello to you again, Mr. Levette, and I hope that, unfortunately, I'm not supporting you this time. And I am pleased that Ms. Harris is leaving. Thank you.
Elder, automotive instructor at the Clark County Skills Center, father of 13 and longtime Clark County resident. First off, I have to say it's something very wrong when an auto tech has to come and discuss integrity issues with the board, which is what my concern is. We can talk about the wisdom of light rail and all that kind of stuff, but right now that's not what's important to me. It's the integrity. We were promised a vote. Many of you were on the board with the policy, and I talk with my students all the time about the importance of integrity and the consequences of positive integrity versus negative integrity. Right now, you're giving us a lot to discuss, and I think you can see you've kind of lit up the room or the community kind of like a hornet's nest, and that's because people aren't happy with what happened, and I'm here to voice that support as well. It's about integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Tweed.
Board and citizens. I'm Margaret Tweed, a Clark County resident for 16 years, and our family crossed the CI-5 bridge for medical, family work, and events. In November 2012, a majority of C-Tran voters in Clark County, that's 56.51%, rejected the C-Tran proposition to extend costly light rail and unnecessary bus rapid transit. Voters said no. C-Tran policy since 2008 requires a public vote on light rail funding. This is a policy that was signed by Vancouver Mayor Levitt and County Commissioner Steve Stewart and Bill Ganley. Since that is your policy, how could some of you ignore it? Promise makers, Levitt and Stewart, have become promise breakers. And I thank you, Bill Ganley, for upholding your promise. You owe it to the public to uphold the promised vote requirement, and I sincerely thank Bill Ganley, Connie Jo Freeman, and Commissioners Medor and Milkey. Last year's vote excluded thousands of North and East County voters. This November, everybody in the county has a chance to vote to uphold the vote requirement. I'm voting yes for a countywide vote on light rail and bus rapid transit. I submitted to the board last time a graph that illustrated the CRC rosy traffic predictions have not come true in the first 8 years and didn't even take into account the strong likelihood that drivers will divert from I-5 to I-205 if it's tolled. Tolls aren't good for Clark County. Tolls of $8 plus one-way suck from our local economy. How likely are the rosy predictions for 2030 to come true? What about the rosy predictions for public transit? The CRC final EIS did not even include up-to-date public transit data on trips across the bridge. We need affordable public transit options based on true demand and realistic growth projections. We need to review options fairly. The I-5 bridge lifts can be reduced, and a third bridge that can truly improve freight, because they always talk about freight, but light rail doesn't hold any freight.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Liz Green.
For your service, all 9 of you, even the 5 that voted wrongly. I also want to thank you because I'm a Skamania County resident, so I'm not a Clark County resident. But what happens in Clark County does affect Skamania County residents in the fact that debt affects everybody. And the way that you've done this is going to cause more and more debt to all the citizens of Washington, not Clark County. The thing that really bothers me here is that, you know, one of the things I teach my kids, I'm a homeschool mom, is about liberty and about the will of the people, and that we elect people to follow the will of the people, and you have obviously not done that. You haven't listened to your people here in Clark County, much less anyone else. That's really bothersome. The other thing that bothers me is the way that this contract came through, and I would suggest to the people in Clark County is to follow the money. Follow the money and find out what is going on that you don't know about. Utilize your Public Records Act. Public records are what keep us involved in the business of these boards like this. So start requesting public records. Follow the trails that you have. I've been doing that locally in Skamania County, trying to keep people accountable. And I would say that there are always people that rely on public transportation. I was one of them. I lived in Portland for several years, and the buses were great. And then they put in light rail, changed all the bus routes, and it became very difficult. So light rail is not the answer. And the fact that I think all citizens need to have access to services, and you're not doing the people that rely on public transportation any service by getting into this kind of debt. The only other thing I'd like to say is that we elect people and we expect them to act honorably, and 5 of you have not done that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam, it's good to see you tonight and have a chance to visit with you. My name is Debbie Peterson, and a week ago last Thursday in Clark County, we realized that this is no longer a nation of laws. This is no longer a nation of rules, and this is no longer a nation where men keep their word. A really, really smart man I knew when I was in school said that there are 2 things that made this nation great. One of them was we are a nation of laws, and the other is our cohesive language. A week ago last Thursday, you took the underpinnings of one of those, and you cut them off at the knees. The 5 of you, Stewart, Levitt, Smith, Hanson, and Mr. Irish didn't have the nerve to come because he knew of the vote. This is the second important vote that he's missed in the last several years. And it was unfortunate that you were not here so that we could let people know in the center just exactly how you vote on light rail. The long and short of it is, I want to talk a little bit about Larry Smith. Larry supports veterans. But a week ago last Thursday, he might as well stop supporting veterans because the very thing that they serve for, the very reason why they are in the military, are the very things that you turned your back on last week. Please do not attend another veterans service. Please do not attend another veterans memorial service. Please do not attend anything that has to do with veterans because you turned your back on the law. You turned your back on the very things that they fight for. And when you say that you support veterans, you make a mockery of that because you made a mockery of our law. You allowed a contract which had been written 2 weeks ago. You allowed that contract, which many of you knew about on this board, to be voted upon. Several of you did not know about it, and yet you allowed it to go through, and you voted for it. You make a mockery of the veterans, and you make a mockery of our law, and it is insulting to us. And all of you, the 5 of you which I have mentioned, shame on you.
Debbie, thank you for your father's service.
Hi, my name is Dan Boyes. I'm also from Skamania County. I have better things to do, but I keep finding myself in front of government people. Regardless of whether I'm looking at the television or YouTube, watching federal government, watching local government, watching a county government, or whatever, I spend every Tuesday, about half of it, with my county commissioners, watchdogging them. I consider them my friends, but they spend and they spend and they spend, and that's their job. They manage grant funding. They shuffle money from here to there. It's never the money that they took out of my pocket. But I've worked for 30 years. I'm not a union guy. I'm an at-will semiconductor worker. That gentleman that spoke for semiconductor workers did not speak for me. I work hard, but I'm an at-will employee. I can lose my job any day. I can lose my financial security. I'm careful with my money. Train my children to be the same way. But you people represent what's ruining my security. I earn my money. I deal with my own transportation. I find my way where I need to go. If I can't afford to get where I need to go, then I need to move. These folks that think they need a free ride on a train or a bus or whatever, if it doesn't pencil out, you guys have got to stop wasting our money. Our nation is $17 trillion in debt. The state of Washington is $78 billion in debt. Clark County is $30 million in debt. My little Skamania County is $2 million in debt. Stop spending our money. Get your budgets in the black. Get out of these crazy boondoggles like this crossing and balance the budgets, fix the roads, be careful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Last name is
What is it?
Duman.
Duman, thank you.
Yes. Okay. I was going to mention about CRC stuff. So what I wanted to say was there's nothing wrong with our bridge. We need more. So that's number one. Then I started thinking about it. I've lived in a lot of cities. I do a bit of traveling. I've lived in 11 states in my lifetime. In January, was in Florida. 2 very flat cities, Tampa and St. Petersburg. Light rail? Where? It's not there. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 2005. It wasn't buried in light rail. Those cities are all bigger than the combination of Vancouver and Portland. So why do we need a light rail in a city of hills? That makes no sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to put something in that has to run on tracks like a train and requires low rises. No sense at all. So what's wrong with buses? There's nothing wrong with buses. They go on regular roads. They can climb hills. They can stop wherever they need to. And it's not hard to cross the route that the bus traveled on because you won't run into the rail with your bicycle. So I don't see it. Let's see, what else was I going to say here? I did have something else. I think that covers it. That'll do.
Okay. Thank you, Donna.
4 members of the board who voted against the latest Vancouver Light Rail O&M funding plan, I have 2 words. Thank you. Especially to Commissioner Madore for his inquiries highlighting the deficiencies of this scheme. For the 5 members of this board who approved the funding plan, I'll settle on 1 word: Quizlings. That's not a, sandwich franchise. Quisling is a synonym for political leaders who are traitors and collaborators. It was derived from the last name of a man who betrayed his country to the Nazis during World War II. The country was Norway. After the war, he was executed. By now, I think we all know how despicable you have to be to make Norwegians willing to do that. The word Quisling applies to those of you who voted for this funding plan because last November's vote against light rail funding O&M should have been the end of this matter. It wasn't. Your revival of this issue betrays those voters. You give Clark County's electorate no chance to vote on your latest funding scheme, despite long-standing promises to do so. Another betrayal. The financial assumptions of this funding plan you passed in such haste are unsound. They will burden future taxpayers. Still another betrayal. As to that other sense of the word Quisling, collaborator, this funding scheme is part of a larger CRC revival plan that is directed by Oregon, financed with bridge tolls set by Oregon, and collected by Oregon. Well, I guess I'll just have to stop there. Quisling is just a name that fits. You should wear it in shame.
Nassett, good evening. I think the record needs to point out that the room is full. There are at least 50 people standing here. Out in the hallway there are several others, and outside it is packed. I would say over 250 people out there, easily. Go on out, take a look, and there's signs. First, I would like to point out that this is what happens when you do not follow policies or procedures and you have hidden meetings and a hidden agenda. It's quite obvious that the NEPA process has not been followed. Last week, you did not follow in any way your procedures of going back to Vancouver City Council and getting their responsibilities to sign the document, or allowing the small cities to go back and get it. So your lawyer did not have the right to sign any paperwork because they had not followed the policies and procedures that you have been following all along, and the Vancouver City Council requires that it goes back to the council before voting. The other is you should contact the federal state court system because your lawyer has not followed agency practices or fiduciary responsibilities of getting the very best deal he can for his client with fair and honest dealings. There are no protections for this agency. He did not follow his fiduciary obligations. He can allow in the document to choose any building in Vancouver and say, it's gone, and you have absolutely no recourse. A contract that has no recourses and has absolutely nothing for the betterment of your client is not agency practice. It does not follow fiduciary obligations, and everybody here in Clark County individually should be suing the lawyer himself and not C-Tran for lack of agency responsibility and fiduciary obligations. Thank you.
Passionately at the county commissioner meetings, and they packed the place out, and certainly it's appropriate to ask people to be respectful by not booing or hissing or saying things negative. But it's been very rewarding for us to be able to welcome the freedom of speech, to be able to allow people at the end of each speaker to clap. It's just an expression. So I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to allow people to express clapping just simply at the end of each, if they agree, and there'll be people clapping for both sides. If that's a motion.
And I have to move the meeting along. We have a long list tonight. If that's what the board wishes, I'm fine. We can let it go.
Second?
Okay.
I would only ask that they wait until the speaker ends so that we can actually hear what the speaker is saying, because I didn't hear what you said at the very end.
Sure. And that is the motion.
This is federal law, and a federal agency, because it's going back and forth, and it's defrauding the federal government transit as well, and that people should individually go after the agency and fiduciary obligations of the lawyer.
Right, but you said something after that, when everybody was clapping.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
And I did not hear it. I heard all that.
Thank you.
During the clapping, you were talking. I didn't hear that.
I beg your pardon.
Okay.
I don't know.
So we're going to
opportunity to speak. And I want to thank the 4 brave people who voted no on this contract. So, with fuzzy facts and $170 million, what did we get? A partnership of debt with a bankrupt TriMet. All our property owned by Oregon. All our toll money for 45 years going to Portland. And getting out of this illegal contract for $5 million, priceless. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay?
I'm classified as a, well, never mind, I won't say that. But anyway, I'm astounded that my employees, which is what you folks are, would do such a disastrous thing as to selling us down the river. I mean, you had a secret contract with Oregon that is at some point going to cost us $5 million. It's going to allow Oregon and Portland C-Tran, which is a financially failing enterprise, to bring their choo-choo train over here. And I don't understand it. You've taken everything away from us. You've promised us votes. We voted time and time again that we don't want light rail, that we don't like light rail, and yet you continue to ignore us. I mean, you know, so for our employees to continue to tell us to go to hell, the only thing we can do is fire you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Next, Jim Carlock.